So, welcome to this next little fly in our series pattern of the month. It's number 54, and maybe those of you who've seen a few films can hear that I don't sound like I normally do. I have not had a big party yesterday. It's just that I have this cold, and maybe I sound more serious than normal, I don't know. But we're doing this and we're heading off to Norway again tomorrow. And today I'm not gonna tie a fly that is specific for Norway or for this trip, or I was going to say for any other trip. It's probably suitable for all trips, and you that been following what I do here knows that I have very special thoughts with every fly, when it should be fished and why I use it, and sizing and materials and everything. But today we're gonna do it a bit different. I have picked a fly that is one of the old classics in a modern shape. It's, to my knowledge, one of the most beautiful classic flies ever made. And it's called Childers. And what appeals to me is probably the color combinations. Same in many flies, but also the yellow reddish body with the red hackle and a bit of teal in front. When I turn a classic fly into a modern pattern, you can always choose what color, what material you want to have on what color. So here I picked the blue tubing. I picked the order from the swan fibers, and then I added a little color to make it just blend the way I want it. And I'm gonna tie it what we call classic style, which means I'm dividing hackles and don't put the full color hackle in front of the wing, which to my knowledge maybe fishes better most of the time. Classic fly, quite slim profile, but very translucent. Okay, so let's start this little adventure now. It's gonna be tricky fly to tie with a lot of materials, but be careful, don't take too much of everything, and you will end up with a fly that also is balanced in volume and tapering. Just for the fun of it, I'm gonna do quite a big fly, and I'm just gonna let my cutter adjust this, doing a fly with about 3 centimeter of a blue medium, and then I'm gonna use an extra small, here we go, we need space here. We're gonna do an extra small yellow one, and I picked the blue from the original pattern. I could have tied this on a yellow one that I normally do with all the classics, but let's do a blue one here now. Okay, a bit sick. See where this is gonna end up, and maybe it's like a good idea to tie flies when you have a bit of cold, you know it is. It's a good thing to do when you need to stay home from work. But maybe not the best to do a film around fly tying, but here we go. Hopefully I'm not gonna cough on you too much. I'm gonna use R12O, a black thread. I'm gonna change my glasses. so I see what I do. And I start by putting on a little thread over this part that I cut, just to make sure the thread will make the medium hold the extra small. You heard me say this so many times. Okay, and we back down and we start like on most of these tubes I do. I like to have Mirage. I think Mirage is fantastic. It picks up the color from the material underneath, and that's why it's so good on our fluorescent fitz tubing. And I back down and I turn and I go up front. This way I'm not getting any thread to be seen under the Mirage when this gets wet. Otherwise the thread can be seen through the Mirage tinsel. Okay, a little tag. I'm gonna do a tail. I'm using craft fur, and I'll pick a yellow one. This instead of the pheasant crest feathers. Not very suitable actually for modern fly tying. And I trim it a little bit. And when I do this, I always try to have a tail where the shortest fibers are underneath. And I tie it in. Make sure it's not sliding down on the sides too much. A little bit is okay, but not too much. If I taper, I'll go in with my scissors underneath and I cut and pull. And if I do it like that, I get the longest fibers on top. And then when I cut this, I don't do it straight. I do it alongside with the tube, because then it's much easier. When I tie this in, it will disappear into the body without leaving too much of a mark. I will do a few strands of teal on top of the tail, and I take a little bit and I fold them a little. Should fold same way, and put them in on top, but half the length. Top of the yellow. Is that good? No, it's not good. They were too curved. So when I do this, always try to pick up material that behaves the way you want them to behave on the fly, and always redo, because otherwise you will end up with a fly where every time you look at it, picking it out of the box, you will think, oh, I should have redone that or that. Just a little bit like that. Do the fish care? Not at all, I'm sure. Do I care? Yep. I think it's the small details, to make those match, that will create a good looking fly. Okay, so I have so much stuff here, always a lot of stuff here, but especially today when I'm gonna tie a fly with so much material. I do a little butt and I dub it on using our SSS dubbing, a little bit at a time. Spin it on quite hard. It's one of the few times where I actually don't brush the dubbing. This is just going to be a little marker between the tail and the actual body. Like that. Looks a little brutal, but it's going to be a big fly, so I think it'll be good. Okay, then I will use our hollow braid. I'll do silver ribbing. Always start by putting on the ribbing first, and then I do a magma yellow hollow braid for the rear third of the body. And I've said it before, and I think it's super nice that you can actually use the same material for bodies and ribbings. So I'll take away the silver. I'm going to use that afterwards, and I take this and I tie it in flat. Now I can back down so I get the butt to be just as big as I prefer. And I want a body that will grow a little bit. You know, on the classics you put silk under the tinsel to make it form the right way. With our braid, you can actually overlap them, and you don't have to put something underneath, or you don't have to go front and back if you don't need to. You will taper nicely. Oops. And then this is going to be 1/3 of the body, but you can see it's almost half. And I always do that. I start by doing this a little longer, and when I'm going to do the next part of the body, which is going to be yellow dubbing, I can back that down. And especially when I have the same color of the braid and the dubbing, I can back this down over and just decide how big a part of this that I want to have the tinsel. And one common mistake when you tie flies with divided bodies is that the rear part is very often going to be too long. And the reason for that is that you look at the tube or the hook, and you have to remember that this part is not going to be a body. It's going to be where hackles and wings are to be tied in. And I try to make this grow a little bit like that. Maybe one more turn. Hold back a couple of turns. Do the next color, which is our octopusy red dubbing. And those of you who are used to our dubbings knows that all these materials have it's a mix of different colors. So there's a little bit of pearl, a little bit of silver, a little bit of gold in this, and it gives us a broader spectra, which I think is one of the reasons that our dubbings look a bit more alive, and that when you brush them and have them on, they actually, to my knowledge, look a bit better. Okay, and as you can see, I do a little bit at a time. Quite big. Don't be afraid to make this a little longer than the others, because this will disappear under hackles and wings. One question I would very often get is, how long should I save? and normally I do between 3 and 6 millimeters depending on how much wing we are going to put on. Here 6 about, because it's going to be quite a lot of materials tied in. Okay, time for a body hackle, and I've picked a warm yellow badger, and picking the right size of feather. I don't want it to be too long, and I want to use the tapering of the feather and strip away this, tie it in. I always tie these hackles in underneath, and the reason for that is that on the top of the fly I will have a lot more stuff tied in, so it's good to have the space. This you can do with our hackle plier, but I normally do it by hand, and I take these and I hold back the first fibers and starting to put one turn here before I start backing down. And the reason for this is that I want to have fibers also in the very front of the fly. You can see how this ends with a very small tip of feather. If I pick the size of the feather right, spinning this now, I will, a little more, come on. I will use the full tapering of the feather, meaning the hackles go from being long to shorter. And I tie this in, and those of you who counted saw that I did 5. Pull it down in the dubbing, meaning I pull really hard. Even if my needle will hold the tube, I actually hold the fly when I do it. And I tie it in underneath. This is so warm orange, yellow, it almost looks orange. And then I take away this little tip here. And you can see not much, meaning I picked the right size of feather. I don't cut this off. I work my thread, couple of mil, and I fold it back like this. Then I cut it. That means it can't be pulled back. And when I take, introducing our brush, I said this is the meanest brush on the market, and I think it is. It picks up these dubbing fibers so good, and you can just pull them out, and they will mix together with these hackles, creating a translucent, bit shiny fly. If there are fibers that are a little long, I can cut them away. Don't want to have too many in the back here. And yeah, looking good. Bit of coffee. Maybe to get well I should have had something stronger, but we stay on coffee. Okay, so now I have to think. I'm gonna do a classic style fly, meaning that I will have a divided wing with very little material on top to be able to fit the half turbocon on top. Half turbos it's like a hate-love thing. the way they fly fish and the profile that's created, it's super nice. But they are also tricky to tie with because you have so little space to cover up that thread, so you have to be careful. Meaning I will not do any of the front hackles now. I will do the main wing and then I will add the front hackles. I will start when I do this. I will do the lightest color in the bottom. How many colors we're gonna add? We're gonna have yellow, orange, red, and lion color, I call it. It's like a tan thing, and a little bit of brown. So it means 5. I do them so I put the lightest color in the bottom and grow them to be darker and darker. And instead of putting the colors of the flash materials together with the same color of hair, I do it quite opposite. So I'm gonna start with bit of blue, and I pick a few colors of our clear water blue, and I use the quality we called Angel Hair HD, which is a bit heavier than the regular angel hair, and I tie in a few fibers on top. Make sure they are quite wide now. I do one turn and I double them back. Make sure they are spread, and I lost a few fibers here, doesn't matter, and I cut and taper so they get different length, each of them. Then I'll pick yellow, and I'm gonna have a quite short wing, just a little bit here, and you that been following us knows that we now have different qualities of fox, our SNS series, and when it comes to underwings, I think, and winging bigger flies, I think the tail, the hair from fox tail is better than from the body. If you want to have a slimmer samurai wing, our body hair that comes from that's called Supreme is really good. Look at this now, it's quite the same length, and it's so important to get a tapered wing that you actually taper every little bunch of hair. I make sure it's tapered, and I take it and I run it through my brush, untangling all the fibers, meaning that when I tie them in, I'm sure that the fibers are not crossing too much, and they are going to be spread around. So I take this and I hold it in. Make sure this is not too long. It will reach to the maximum of the tail. Look at this. Take my thumbnail and press it out to the sides to divide it. And as you can see, there are quite few fibers, and I cut between every bunch of hair I tie in. I can then do the next one, going over to orange. Again, very few strands. Brush it through, and I could have put a few strands of angel hair in between, but I'll save it until the next one. Look at this. Not too long, not too many. Spread it and tie it in. sometimes when the thread wants the fibers to come down too far on the lower side like this, I can take this and I can just take them away. It's good. I think good. Maybe secure it with a couple of turns. Normally when I work with tying thread, I do 3 to 6 turns each material, and it's a big difference doing that than doing too many. It's very often you sit there and you make a few turns and you make a few turns and make a few turns, and when you end up with tying in, what is this going to be, some 20 materials, 10 turns extra versus what, 20 materials, it's going to be 200 turns of extra thread, and that does not work when you are working, especially with cones and the way I tie. You need to be really careful. Okay, so I'm going to take a little bit angel here now, and I'm going to go on the Alta Gold one, and not too many, just a few. And I'll look at them, tie them in wide on top, and double back 1 or 2 turns, and tie in. And try now, when you tie in so many materials, to keep the materials on top of each other. If you move the thread and tie it in further front every material, it's going to be like when you turn the fly and it's ready, it's going to be 1/2 centimeter of thread. We don't want that. That's going to be what's going to break. Looking at the fibers, if they are too long, I can just taper and cut. But I'll leave them, it's easy to do afterwards. Okay, I'll go on blue, and I'm doing a color called teal and blue. Teal and blue was known in classic tying, but nowadays I found out that quite few people know what a teal and blue one is. And a little bit longer, making sure I'm now reaching behind the tail, tying in these, spread them, look so they're spread. If I don't think so, I'll use my thumbnail and spread them down and tie in. Here you have to be careful, there are a few strands like that, and cut again. One little trick when you're cutting is that you can take it and you can twist it a little bit before you cut, you get a little closer. Okay, quite wide wing, 3 colors so far, and I think it looks fairly good. We're gonna do 2 more colors. I'm gonna put on what I call a lion colored one. This is like a tan or a mix between a tan and a golden olive maybe. Few strands, sorry. Always look at them, hold them so they're wide. Brush through to untangle and put them on. And it's almost like putting a little roof on every time here. Looks fairly good. And you can see how this takes down the colors in the wing, makes the fly a little more discreet. Now I have only one hair to put on, and I'm gonna divide that bunch of hair into two. And I'm gonna do it just because I would like to do what I said with the half turbo. I need very little material in the end, and see what we have. Well, we can open one of these ones. I'll show you these since they're here. Our new SNS foxtail and the long ones, and I don't know how this guy that supplies us can actually find the quality of material here. I've been searching for good hair all my life, and looking at this, it's just magnificent. And few strands, long strands. Pull out, make sure you cut it all the way down. Brush it through. I'm having way more material here that I'm going to tie in, but it's always better to start with a little too much, and you can adjust it afterwards. And I will move my fingers up and I take away a bit, slimming this down. Looking at it and can see that this is going to be a little too much. So I take away a little bit again and I tie it in on top. And this hair got dark tips, which is really suitable, I think, for these flies where you want a wing that will be very drop formed and bulky, and slimming down in a darker tip like this. I think that's super nice. Okay, I'm happy. Hope you're happy. So I'll cut this off. And now I have those about 5 mils maybe to put the hackles on. I'm going to do 2 front hackles here, and then I'm going to divide the front hackles, and I'm going to pimp it with some horns and jungle cocks and cheeks and everything. Okay, now I'm going to use pheasant rump, and I think we sourced really good quality feathers actually, and I'm going to do the pheasant rump feather instead of a regular hackle here, just because I like these hackles when they are almost like spayfly or heron hackle looks. Could have put on one of our heron hackles here too, but I'm gonna do this. There's a little more volume to these guys, and on a big fly like this, instead of making one extra hackle, I'll do this. And I divide it, taking out the tip. Look on how much I want, and hold back, create a little triangle, cut it and tie it in. Now I use my plier, since I broke the feather here when stripping off, and I use the plier, and I'm gonna tie this in. Make sure you go in front of all the other hackle strands and double it, meaning I pull back the part that I'm tying in, so all this comes one side. Hold back, fold them back, make sure no strands is going front. It's gonna be probably 2 turns here, which I think is good. Like that, and showing you the advantage with our hackle ply. It's so heavy that I can let go even on a big feather like this without it will unwind. And I tie it in, and you can see that I'm now down on the extra small, so I move this over these millimeters here. Come on now, I managed to double that, and I cut it. Looking so it's even, and it's almost like combing these fibers, and I will just make sure they are down on the side. Enough fibers seen. I'm not going to back up the thread again, just a little bit. I'll leave it like that, and then I will start by pimping these with jungle cocks. And I don't know how many films you heard me talk about our new jungle cock, and last little film I used it, and look at this, they are here. We have them in small stock yet, and we'll release them shortly, but upside down, but you'll see we have them here. These are our 5 colors in our 9 different sizing. We have the dark natural, we have the light natural, we have the yellow fluorescent, we have the chartreuse fluorescent, and we have the orange fluorescent. And I'm super happy with this now finally being reality. It's like I've been talking about a ghost forever. Instead of this, I picked a few of the packs here, and now it's time to decide color size. I decided the dark natural one, but people say it's crazy to do something like this in 9 sizes, but you will see that if I'll go only from a medium to a large, there's quite a big difference. And we go up to what we have as our biggest, our jumbo size. Size of jungle cock is important. Big fly, I'm gonna choose a 2X large one here. And new, never used. And this is a project we've been working on so long. I could talk a full film about them. I'm not, but you can see that these are cut in feather shape. They are made in a material that you can't really tear, and they are so soft that they will follow the wing and work in the water. Of course you can form them, and they are pre-curved, so half of these are left ones and half are right ones. So the way I work these sheets is that I normally start with the 2 top ones here, and then I work my way down from each side like this. And I'm gonna pick these, and I cut them off And when you tie these in now, you can do it two ways. You can either tie them into the front and double them in back, because they're so thin they're possible to double, but you can also just tie them in the regular way. And since I'm gonna use a little glue here shortly, I will tie these in. Oh, I was going to start with the wrong one. I will tie them in a regular way. I formed them a little bit on my thumbnail so they will follow the wing better, like that, before I tie them in. And I place this, get it to follow back in the wing quite long, and tie it in. And the thing with these compared to the natural feathers is that they are way easier to tie in. They will follow the wing in a nice way, almost no matter how you do it. Form it a little bit, look so I get the same length, and just press it in and tie it in. Okay, and then I cut. And what I'm gonna do now, I'm gonna pimp this a little bit more. I'm gonna use a small blue feather instead of a shatterer, and you can use any small blue feather. I've taken some regular hackle tips here, and I will tie it in on top of the jungle cock. And I do the same on the other side. Maybe I just selected a couple of that. It's a little too big here, but we'll see. This is just to get a little bit of blue here. And I tie it in. Hopefully it will follow me. Of course it's more beautiful to use a shutter or a kingfisher, but let's do this way, and I can just make sure that these are going good. Okay, time for the last strands of wing, and I'm gonna take a little bit of the brown again. Very few strands. And when I say very few here, I mean very few. Before I tie these in, I'm gonna take, almost forgotten, I'm gonna take a couple of angular again, and it's gonna be the nasty rusty one. Very few, very long. Same way. Like that. Now it's time to put that last little hackle on, and I'm gonna just put a few of these fibers away. I'm gonna take a teal feather and I'm gonna strip one side of it, and looking in what is best here. Doesn't really matter what side you use, but I'll strip it off, try to tie it in where I use as much of the possible of the quite thin part. And I will probably do 3 turns. I'll take away a little more. Create that little triangle, tie it in. Since I picked that side, I will tie it in on top, and then I'm gonna add this magic to the fly, because I think this is part of what makes Childer such a beautiful fly. When you have the teal folding over the red hackle. Maybe I use the full feather here. Let's see. You have to comb this and make these follow the way that you want, so they don't bend over to the wrong side. And then I tie it in. You have to be fairly rough on this, putting a few turns of thread before you put the actual strength onto the thread. Tie it in, pull it a little bit, and it sits there. Does it look good? I think it looks good. Maybe I have the fly twisted a little bit on the wise for you, like that. Looking great, I think, and I'll pull down on the side, just dividing for that last little wing. Very few fibers of a long, quite dark brown piece of hair. Tie it in wide, pull down, and I take this and I pull it up and I push it towards the wing, so it will actually be very tight. Looks good to me. I don't know what you say. And I can put one more turn before I cut this. If I have one or two of the teal that want to turn the wrong way, I can just pull them away afterwards when I put the glue on. And you know, looking good? I think it looks good. Okay, so we're gonna take a couple of very long and soft peacock curls. These were a little damaged here on the side. And like with all materials, it can be tricky to find the right size and to find really long, nice peacock. It's just as hard as finding good long hair. 3 to 5, put them on top. Make sure these now are as long as the wing. I can actually hold them here and I can push them back a little bit. If one is gonna turn to the wrong side, I'm gonna pull it back, take it away, and I tie it in. Like a little roof over the wing. This is a naughty one. See, it's twisted. So I just take that and I pull it out. Take it away. That's the good thing when you say 3 to 5. Making sure you get the right length there. Okay, does it look good? I think it looks good. I'm just gonna put on one little last thing here, and that is what's called horns. And horns on a classic fly, I use bleached and dyed peacock, and it's a bit crazy maybe to do on a tube and fishing fly, but they actually adds a little, I think, to the beauty of the fly. Starting with the one on my side, it's gonna be like a little blue feeler, like a horn, like they're called. And I tie them in one each side, one at a time. And these you can actually form quite easy if they're not straight or the way you want them. Doing like that, looking okay. Cutting off. And we are soon ready. Digging down in the boxes here to find a cone. And on these classics I prefer not to have a big cone. It's maybe because I'm brought up without cones, and the smaller the head, the better the tire. And what I do, I put this on, okay, and I pull this down a little bit, and then take a little glue and just put a little glue on there. And as you can see, I use support. And one time, pull the thread, cut it off. You don't need to cut close. Then I just pull this down, cover the thread. Easiest way of doing this is when the fly is out of the vise. Looking good. And then I will cut it, use support, about 3 millimeters. And I'm sorry, don't know what color of lighter I should have had here, but maybe it's perfect with the white one. And I just melt this down. And the good thing with fits is that the fluorescence in the plastic does not burn. So if you have 3 millimeter and you melt it down to 1, it's getting even more fluorescent. And Childers is born. A little fly coming here. Maybe you liked my fly. I hope you liked my fly. Bit complicated maybe. A lot of wings. Tying in a fly that is tied with a lot of material, but still got that little tip, and very translucent. A fly that I think will actually swim well. Maybe I pack it for tomorrow. And well, why did I pick it? It's because I think it's a beautiful fly. Always when it comes to teal, you need to pull them around afterwards and make sure that they actually sits on the fly the way they're meant to be. a really nice color combo that even if there's a lot of colors in there, it's quite a discreet fly. The darker parts and the lion will just have this to come down in color, and the little blue you have in the horns will, when it gets wet, be a little less blue. And I don't know what you think, but I think that the jungle cock we have here is very realistic, and it's also soft enough to move, even better than the natural feathers. And try them, they'll be soon out. And well, did it turn out good? I think it did, actually. I'll be happy to fish this anywhere. Okay, sorry for my broken voice and the very long film, but I hope you like the pattern, and I hope that you picked up some tricks, and you can see how you need to be careful with thread and amount of material when tying in this much. And going back packing to go and catch a fish, maybe on that fly, we'll see. And we'll be with you next month again for something completely different. And those of you who want to buy our packs, we have of course the fly packs with the actual childers in there, and we have our material packs, and I don't know if we ever had this much material in one of our packs, but it's full of good stuff, and you find them on our web. Okay, so thank you very much. Season is not over. Go out and catch that late running chromer, and maybe on the shiders. Thank you.